Welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb, where each week we use the stories and journeys of other successful business owners to motivate, inspire, and empower you to become the next breed of successful entrepreneurs. This week on the show, we've got Nathanial Bibby from Bibby Consulting. Nathanial, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, mate. Now, if anybody is looking to start or scale a business and they're wondering on how to get themselves out there, how to get themselves more recognized, and this is definitely a podcast that you should be listening to. Some of Nathan's titles or accolades are generating over $400 million in sales using LinkedIn, and we think that's gone up already, don't we? Closer to 500 million?
Yeah, almost half a billion now.
Incredible. LinkedIn Expert 2019. Best use of LinkedIn social media, best use of LinkedIn in the Social Media Marketing Awards, and also number one in Asia Pacific LinkedIn Expert. Incredible, mate.
Thanks very much. What a kind intro. Still very weird hearing those things.
Well, how did it all come about? How have you ended up with these titles?
Just literally was very hungry and was desperate for sales revenue at one point, and it's interesting, like as I managed to resolve my financial issues and my stresses, I didn't really lose the hunger, and I'm really addicted to it at the moment. Yeah.
So it all started with sorting your own problems out first, and then other people ask you to solve theirs too.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. You learn so much faster when you're in a place of desperation, when you really need to get an outcome. You learn very fast.
You certainly do. What I didn't add on that one as well, generating all that revenue on LinkedIn, there was zero ad spend. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, that might change in the future if LinkedIn advertising gets any better, but we did all of that thanks to LinkedIn's organic reach.
Wow, it's insane. It's insane. And there was other people in them same categories that were spending millions of dollars.
You mean for the awards?
Yeah.
Look, it was so funny at the Social Media Marketing Awards, and I'm, always confident. I had my mum with me. I was like, I'm going to crush this, mum. Inside, I was like, there's no way I'm going to win. I'm against these agencies that have spent millions of dollars on their campaigns, international campaigns, and I spent $0. So I'm lucky to be there.
Incredible.
And they said my name. I was like, oh, holy shit. I am amazed. And the judges were like from Spotify, from Snapchat, from Facebook, one guy from LinkedIn. And so I would assume that they took the fact that I spent no money into consideration. But it just goes to show what you can achieve with the platform without spending any money, which you can't really do on the likes of Facebook and the other channels anymore.
Yeah, it's insane what you've done there, mate, to be honest. Do you know what I love about it as well? The fact you took your mum there. And I've seen your mum at some of your other events too, so I love that. It's brilliant.
I was on my way to her house and something came on the radio about Mother's Day, and it was that day.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, shit, I haven't got anything. So when I get there, I said, Mum, happy Mother's Day. I'm taking you to the Social Media Marketing Awards.
Nice touch. So, Bibby Consulting's the name of your business, and
yes.
How long's that been going for?
8 years.
8 years. And how did you what made you set Bibby Consulting up? It was because you had a business that you were trying to solve problems with, and Bibby Consulting came from that, or was it set up?
I was in a sales role. I was working for a friend of mine, and we grew his business extremely quickly, and then attempted to do a listing on a stock market. And, that it gets complicated when you start doing things like that. And to cut a long story short, the company went into real financial problems real quickly. I hadn't been paid in 3 months, was the number one salesperson in the country. So I was normally like on real good commissions, had a pretty good lifestyle. Hadn't been paid in 3 months. So the guy who was a friend of mine that I worked for, he got fired by the ASX listed directors for breach of confidentiality and stuff like this. So they get on the conference call with every single office in Australia and New Zealand, and they say, we've got rid of the CEO. And I just closed my book. I was like, I quit. I'm out of here. And walked out. I thought, well, they're not paying me anyway.
Yeah.
Get home. There's an eviction notice on my front door, and that night my electricity had been cut off as well. And so, like, I was sitting there going, like, how can all this shit happen in one day? And it was a gift. It was a massive gift from the universe to give me enough reasons to have no other choice to start a business.
Yeah.
Because I just was like, everything was too comfortable for me to do it anyway, any other way.
And I think it's Tony Robbins that says life happens for you, not to you.
He's spot on there. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that, well, I mean, look, if you believe that, then it's true. And if you don't believe that, then that's true as well.
So how did you get all this sales experience? So were you born in Perth?
I was born in the UK.
You're born in the UK and you moved to Perth when you were...
I was 10 when I arrived in Perth.
10.
Yeah.
And then from the age of 10 to starting Bibby Consulting, how did you get all this sales experience?
Okay, so my dad is an entrepreneur. So I learned a lot from watching him about what to do, and I learned a lot about what not to do, because he was catching 80 flights a year entertaining clients. And what he would do is he'd take them out to nice restaurants, buy them a nice champagne, take them out drinking, and they would like him, trust him, they would choose him as financial advisor. Yes, he was very good at what he did, but I thought, there must be a better way. I went to boarding school at 10. Me and my sister didn't see my dad as much as we'd like to. Saw a bit more of my mum, which is great. But as a kid, that has a big impact on you. And so I'm watching him thinking, there must be a better way to do business, And I studied marketing, and marketing degrees nowadays are so far behind the times that you're graduating with 10 years behind, because it takes 5 years to create the content. You're in uni for 5 years, you're 10 years behind.
And the market's changed.
It's pretty irrelevant, yeah. I was ordering stuff online when I was at university, and I didn't do one unit on how to market online. That's how crazy it is. And so it was always marketing graduates, and there's no marketing jobs. And they all end up in sales. And what do you learn in sales is you're sitting in an empty sales office and no one wants to give you any leads because you've got no experience. And so you learn very quickly that if you really want to be successful, you've got to learn how to create your own leads. And so I'm just spent all my time and attention focusing on how to get leads from the internet. And the biggest thing that I've learned along the way is it's what works today is not going to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Just constantly evolving.
Yeah, because we didn't have social media back then.
Yeah.
It was SEO,
With Google.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started with Google and then worked into LinkedIn.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that I was getting a lot of leads on Google when I started my career, if I did that today, I'd get blacklisted. So you've got to also consider, if you've got enough experience, you will consider the fact that unless you align your objectives with the platform, eventually whatever hack you have won't work.
Right. Interesting. So how long ago did you get into LinkedIn and then realize that that's got some enormous potential for you to leverage it and then grow the business to what you've grown it to now?
It was actually at the start of that sales role in Melbourne, because I'd come back from Asia where I was involved in real estate specifically. A bit different to yourself. We're selling resort villas in Thailand, but I asked my employer, I said, what is the best ideal type of client for online marketing? And he had an answer. He said, plastic surgeons. He goes, they spend a lot of money, they always need new clients, and they don't know much about marketing. And so I was like, perfect. Made a list of all the plastic surgeons in Melbourne. I was like, this is my target. I'm going to go after them, go knock on all their doors. And I was introduced to something called a practice manager. So a practice manager sits at the front of the clinic and stops people like me from speaking to the surgeons, right? That's their job. And so it didn't work. So I tried calling them. That didn't work. And then I was like, what's that thing, LinkedIn, that I just signed up for recently? And I had a picture of me I was out at a nightclub or a bar or something, and hadn't updated my profile or anything.
As your
like
profile
that.
picture.
I thought it was like a Facebook,
Yep.
And so I contacted 10 surgeons, had 6 responses, had 4 phone call appointments, and I made 1 sale.
All right. So you contacted them through LinkedIn, direct messaging.
Yeah.
Right.
And keep in mind, surgeons are not on their computer all day.
Yeah.
So I thought, here's interesting. And then we get to the sales meeting at the end of the month, and everyone's going, oh, what sales have you made? And everyone's like, oh, I made 10 sales. They were $500 each. I made 20 sales. Mine were $2,000 each or whatever. I'm like, I only made 1 sale. It was $22,000.
Wow.
Because it's an ideal client, right?
Yeah. And
so I was like, okay. So next month I'll send out twice as many messages. I got twice as many sales. And then before long, my boss is like, do you want an assistant to do the messages for you? And you go do the appointments. I was like, yeah. So I was doing 10 appointments a day. And so when I started my business, I thought, well, if I can delegate it to an assistant, why can't businesses delegate it to me? So I created a business model that didn't exist, like LinkedIn marketing. LinkedIn lead generation did not exist in Australia.
Right.
There was 2 companies doing it in America at the time, and I contacted them. But, geez, man, they were selling new connections. We'll send 1,000 connection requests for you, and it's $5,000 a month. I was like, I'm actually getting people leads.
So just to connect with them, just so they accept your connection, nothing else.
Yeah.
Wow. $5,000.
Yeah, because you could export their email address back then.
Right.
You know?
Well, anyone can just click through and request anybody they want, can't they now?
Yeah, you could back then as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing because it's about being targeted, right? Like businesses don't get value out of having lots of connections. They get value out of having relationships with the key decision makers in the right companies.
Right.
You know.
So since you've set up Bibby Consulting, what are some of the clients you've worked with?
Okay, so I'm assuming you're looking for the household names here. So let me think. We've worked with Apple, Channel 7, the Fremantle Dockers, Western Union, Harvey Norman, Westpac, BC Financial Group, the biggest hedge fund in the world, Capital Markets, Brian Tracy, Grant Cardone.
Some big companies there.
Yeah.
And how did they find you, or did you find them?
I found them.
You found them. So this is just a classic example. If you want it, you just have to go out there and get it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So when I wanted, I'll tell you a client story. There was a client of mine. I said, if you could have like a wish board and you could have any client in the world, who would you want? And he goes, Expedia. I'd love Expedia. I was like, okay, I want to see what I can pull off here. And so I contact everyone in the marketing department at Expedia. Now, I would assume that there would be a lot of people in the marketing department at Expedia, but there was a lot of people. We had to contact 500 people before we got a response.
Really?
But what happened was they were all around the water cooler going, oh, this bloody guy keeps messaging me on LinkedIn. Let's respond to him. They go in, get to the meeting, and made the sale. They're like, I can't believe it. You got us Expedia. Because we just went out to the market and just kept hammering them until, I say hammering them, it sounds like we're giving them calls to action. We're actually contacting them offering to add value, which is a bit different.
Right. And this is something I do want to touch on, adding value, because I've been to a few of your presentations that you've done in the city, and they are amazing. The amount of value and content you deliver is incredible.
Thank you.
And where do you, I'm trying to work out with my own business, where is enough value, and then where do you stop and then start to charge for your time and services and products?
Well, when you are delivering value, you'll find that people will receive a certain amount of that value. If you put a price on it and they pay it, they'll receive more of that value. See, we did an event last night, and I'll be completely transparent with everyone. I've only been in Perth a year, so all of my events in Perth have been free. When I go to Melbourne and Sydney, they're not free because I don't know the audience here, and I'm getting to know them. So last night I put a price tag on the event.
Yeah,
it was $30 or something, $35, and we had exactly the same numbers as we do when it's free. So less people registered, but they all came.
Right.
But what's happened is the people that did come, they got more value because they invested in it.
Right.
They paid more attention.
So you think if it's got a monetary figure attached to it, even if it's just minimal, like $30, they feel like they get more value, or did you deliver more value?
No, they would have felt like they got more value.
Yeah. Right.
So put it this way, right? If you go to see a speaker and it's free, and you feel hungry halfway through, you can sneak out the back. If you spent $10,000 to be there, you're not sneaking out the back. You're taking notes, you're paying attention.
True. Very true. So on LinkedIn, you are all over LinkedIn. Every time I go on my Facebook feed, you're on there. So for anybody that's starting up a business or looking to scale a business, how much is the right amount of content to produce, and how much is too much, if there's such a thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the algorithm on LinkedIn does work on relevancy, not recency. So it's not as important as the value you provide,
right?
And actually targeting on a niche, focusing on a niche.
Yeah.
Because in the old school mentality of marketing, people, if they weren't getting enough business, they would add on services or add on demographics, and that you got to do the opposite now. So if you're a financial advisor, instead of saying we'll start doing legal advice, we'll start doing accounting as well, you're better off going, okay, we're struggling for business. Let's stop doing everything except for self-managed super funds for dentists.
Right.
Then you crush it.
Just niche down on one specific target.
Niching is everything.
Right.
People start, you just say, is LinkedIn, no one else does a LinkedIn marketing. Are you sure that's going to be enough? That's not going to work.
Yeah.
And, it's the only reason why somebody's having a conference in Sydney, like Apple, for example, they're round the table having a conversation, and they're like, oh, let's get a speaker from LinkedIn. Google, I'm all over it because that's my niche.
Pops up.
And so they call me. They're not going to call me if I do LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Google, everything.
Yeah. So you just niche down on LinkedIn, made it work, and now you're known as Mr. LinkedIn, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I hate being pigeonholed, but that's what's happened. Yeah.
So with LinkedIn, say for instance, I've been creating posts on LinkedIn, but they're not getting the traction that I want. So I'm trying to, I'm using hashtags, I'm using different things. It just doesn't seem to be growing. And I think that's just the nature of being impatient, isn't it? I'm expecting to get massive results instantly. What sort of...
It is. It's to do with patience. It very much is, because this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where most people quit. And so if you keep going, you'll find you'll break through and there'll be less competition, because if they don't quit, they start trying something else. And then they get impatient with that, and they try something else, and they just get in this cycle of that never actually sticking at anything. And with social media, it does take patience. You need to have patience, and you also need to try and be unselfish as well, and actually just go, do you know what? I'm helping a few people. That's good, because as soon as you start like trying to grab something out of it and not sure whether you're all getting enough out of it, you'll find that people will see that in your content.
I think what you touched on there as well, if I get a lot of traction through Facebook, and I look at my Facebook page, it's been active for probably 12, 13 years, where LinkedIn I've probably only been using it probably for 12 months really. So yeah, when I look at the traction I get there and the traction in LinkedIn, then if I just be consistent, keep delivering, it should build up slowly.
Yeah, and just, I mean, the people that, if there are people watching and there are people liking, like those are the people that will probably be able to give you better advice than me. So it's like, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What are they actually saying in the comments? You know, you might find that like there's topics which are really conversational in your industry.
Yeah.
And so that's by trying different pieces of content. I think the answer is really with those guys, because it's so like I will, when I go to Melbourne sometimes, I will find like people that followed me from like, I don't know, when did I start posting content? Let's say 6 years ago. And were really active and commenting on my stuff back then.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily like all active now. Some of them are, but I'll like call one of them up and say, hey, I'm in town, let's go for lunch. And they're just like blown away. They're like, I can't believe that you want to like, you know, catch up with me, you know. But I was like, look, you followed me like right at the start. What did you like about it? Why did you follow me? Why did you stop why did you stop commenting? Like what do you think about what I'm doing now? And that feedback is like, it's everything.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that at all.
So positive and negative feedback is good to use, isn't it? At least you know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, and like you just got to vet it. Like all of it's got to be vetted. You got to be like, how much? You got to think yourself, how much information does this person have? Are there any biases there? Like, and ask them just more information. So when somebody gives me some negative feedback, like I try to like look at it objectively and think, okay, what are they actually saying? I'll try and find out like why they said that. What can I learn from it? And I get a lot of positive, negative feedback. Like I got some from my last event. Like it was really helpful. Like this person said, oh, this was great, this did great, this did great. Are you ready for some constructive feedback? And I was like, oh shit,
bring it on.
And they said, look, the content's great, but I think that people would pay more attention if you smiled more.
Really? Simple as that.
Yeah. And I thought, fuck, that's really good advice. And I made an effort to do that last night at all.
Did it feel awkward or did it feel natural?
I just looked, like she was in the room, and I just looked at her face and I just lit up like a speedo and gave everyone a big grin.
Can we just go back to niching down as well in LinkedIn? Because a tip that you gave me is you can say, for instance, we're in real estate and we're looking for investors. So we can physically search for investors in a certain area and then target them with certain content. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. So investors who are actively seeking opportunities will generally mention that they're an investor on their LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. So you can use that as a keyword search. If it's like they consider investment to be like their career, their profession, they're a full-time investor, it'll be in their headline.
Yeah.
You know? And so with those people, like you can find them in certain areas and you can contact them, but you just got to remember, like if they're a full-time investor, they're going to have a very like structured system for vetting out the rubbish and finding the good stuff.
Yeah,
because they want the good stuff. It's actually quite hard to find.
Yeah,
you know, so you just got to be ready to deal with that. And to be honest, like when I've done some capital raising for other businesses before, and I just learned by stuff. Like I go there and they're like, mate, like what the hell's this? Like, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Can you give me some feedback? And they just went through it, gave me all these notes, and like helped me with it.
Yeah,
you know, so you learn by experience, I think. But niching down on the target audience, like you're talking about, it's one thing. Like you find them, right? But then if they come to your profile and your profile outlines that you deal with them specifically, then that's got a really huge impact.
Yeah. And when you connect with them people as well, you write them a little message to say, hey, this is what I do. I think we should connect. Is that how it works, or is it kind of like that?
So the key is to not tell them what you do.
Not to tell them what you do.
Yeah.
Right. How does that work?
So it's counterintuitive because if you call someone, for example, the first thing you have to tell them is who you are and why you're calling them what you do, right? But on LinkedIn, they have this freedom to be able to click on your name. So if you write a message to them and say, hey, I've had a look at your profile. I found it very interesting. Want to find out more about you. They're like, who are you? Click on your name. But the fact that they've clicked, it means they've asked for the information. Therefore, they're going to care about what they find at the end of it. Whereas if you message them and tell them what you do, they don't care first, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
And look, people will accept your connection request, but it's because, and not everyone will, but people will, because people think that if they have a bigger network, then they're going to do better in business, or they're going to appear more popular. So a lot of people just hit there and press accept. But sometimes the high value prospects don't do that, and those are the ones that you really want to show interest in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is LinkedIn just business to business, or is there business to consumer too?
It's business. Well, look, it's relationships. So like the targeting features on LinkedIn lend themselves to business because you can go, okay, what industry are they in? What job title do they have? But there's no reason why you can't sell Amiga watches to financial advisors in Melbourne. Like if that could be the criteria that you use to find them.
Yeah.
In which case B2C works.
Awesome. So right now, how big is Bibby Consulting? Because it sounds like you got heaps going on. So
yeah, look, it's much bigger on social media than it is in real life.
Right.
We're a small business, but I like to think of ourselves like a boutique business.
Yeah.
We are a quarter of the size we were 11 months into the business.
Right.
In terms of people,
Yeah.
we're more in terms of revenue, which I'm really excited about. We just broke that record in January.
So less overheads, less overheads, more profits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Big time.
And that's the process of being a business owner. You've learned how to trim the overheads down, but increase the revenue.
Well, it's been something I've been working on for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Ever since I went through this challenge in the first year of growing too fast, I've been just trying to work out how I can achieve the same results with less people and less overheads. And we've finally done it, but it wasn't easy. It took a long time. Yeah.
I think there'd be a lot of people listening to this now that would want to know how you make more with less.
Yeah. So it really starts by adding more value. That's where it starts. There's a guy called Jack Delosa. He's the CEO of the biggest entrepreneurial training company in Australia, the Entourage.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a boardroom event where a bunch of entrepreneurs could come and he would give some advice. And there was about 15 of us there. And I just first, as soon as he asked if anyone's got any questions, I just stood up and said, look, Jack, I don't understand what's going on. We deliver results consistently. You won't find one client I've worked with that won't tell you that I exceed expectations on lead generation. But the clients are leaving after 9 months. It's a 6 months minimum. They're leaving after 9 months. What's going on? I've got a retention problem,
Yeah.
I want them to stay for at least 18 months.
So how do you retain them?
Yeah. And he asked me a few questions. He said, one of the questions he said was, how long have you been in business? I was like 4 years at the time. He said, how much do you charge? I said, $2,000 a month. He said, what did you charge at the start? I said, $2,000 a month. He said, are you better at what you do? I said, yeah. He goes, double your prices.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And he didn't explain any more, and I just trusted him and I did it. And what I found was we were able to deliver the expectations that the client had because we were earning enough money to do so.
Right.
The clients had a little bit higher expectations than we were delivering, and we weren't meeting that expectation because we weren't charging enough.
Right. Cool. So it all just comes back down to KPIs and tracking the actual progress of what you're delivering.
I think that you can add value to your service, but it only becomes more valuable if you charge more. And so sometimes a way to find out how to add more value is just to start charging more, and then you work it out. You'll work out how to add enough value. Because what I thought was valuable at the start of my business is not what I think is valuable to customers now. When I started, I thought it was all about the volume of leads. It's not. The clients want to understand what's happening at every stage of the process, and they want to have a relationship with you. That relationship costs us as a business more money than it does actually doing the work. Like the time it takes to call the clients and maintain those relationships it's more important than the actual delivery of the leads.
So you actually follow up with the leads on behalf of the client
No, we don't. But like speaking to the client, making sure they feel comfortable, that they know when the leads are coming, they know what to say when they call them, they know what we're doing behind the scenes. Because you think about it, we're literally taking control of their personal brand. So you can imagine how much someone would have to trust you to give you that.
Yeah.
And then for them to not be 100% clear on exactly what's happening makes them feel very nervous. So you've got to make sure you're speaking to them all the time. And it's your responsibility. So you can't just say, oh, well, it was in page 27 of the contract. Didn't you read it? It's your responsibility to make sure they understand it. So it's yes, it's in the contract, but it's also in the phone call that you had when you onboarded them. It's also in the phone call that happens before the day that the thing happens. And it's also about just caring enough to ask them, just going, well, is there anything else that you need from me to make it easier,
And is that a daily conversation or weekly, monthly?
So the account managers that we have to call 3 clients a day, and they keep track of those phone calls of what they talked about. There's questions that they need to ask. And then I just, call clients generally about once a month. It's a lot more in the first month, but as soon as I know the strategy is working, I kind of hand it over to the account manager unless there's a real issue.
Yeah, so the business is fully systemized. Everybody knows what they're doing. There's set tasks for everybody every day.
Absolutely.
Set scripts to speak to people.
Yeah, there are, yeah. Yeah, the only one that doesn't follow them is me.
Leading by example.
Yeah.
So what have you learned then in your 8 years in business with Bibby Consulting? What have you learned?
I've learned that business is all about people. It's all about relationships. Sorry, I don't know if you can... It sounds like I'm peeing. I'm just pouring water. So when I say that, it's about, first of all, having some empathy and kindness towards people that may not be as far along in their journey as you. They'll do a lot more for you than the people that are ahead of you in their journey. People think networking with politicians or CEOs of big companies. At the end of the day, they're not doing anything for you. It's the people that are around you day to day that are going to be the ones supporting you and have got your back. But having said that, if there's somebody that's achieved what you want to achieve and you can get in proximity with them, then you will learn. And if you can do that on scale, so you're at a point where you're spending 25% of your time career around people that have achieved what you want to achieve, you're going to learn so much quicker. I always think that if you're going into a new career or want to start a business, somebody that's done it at a scale that you want to do it. If you can afford it, go there and just say, look, I will work for you for free. I want to be a driver. I want to drive you to work in the morning.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, because what they'll teach you, you can't learn from a textbook. You can't learn it from a university. And I've done that consistently throughout my career. And it's cost me a lot of money in personal development. I've probably spent $500,000 on personal development. And I'm not saying that to boast, just it's very important to me. And then, podcast interviews like this, I've learned so much through that. You think when I started it, I was like, yeah, I'll leverage attention. I'll, do more business. It'll add value to my audience.
Yep.
I never thought about it. You're going to learn heaps.
Yeah, I've learned heaps today, man. So in regards to the mentorship that you've spent money on, who are some of the mentors and coaches you've used? You mentioned Jack Delosa earlier. Who else have you used?
So the biggest one's been Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He had a dramatic impact on my life the first time I got along to one of his conferences.
In what way?
Good question. I changed my values and my beliefs when I went to Tony Robbins, which I'd adopted from childhood about money and success and all these things that were holding me back, relationships. And, Tony was in some ways like a second father because I really I just delved into his content. And after I did all of his courses, which, by the way, are very expensive. I didn't have much money back then. And he's selling, and Unleash Your Power Within, he's selling Date with Destiny. It was Date with Destiny or Business Mastery? I think it was Business Mastery, sorry. It's a $12,000 course. And he goes, put your hand up if you're going to go. And I was like, I can't afford $12,000. And then he asked an interesting question. And he goes, put your hand up if you can't afford it, but you're going to find a way. And I was like, yes. And they put a contract in my hand, right? And I said, look, the only way I'm going to sign this contract is, first of all, I don't have to pay anything for 7 days. Second thing is I make enough money in the next 7 days to pay for it. And the sales guy goes, yeah, right.
And how did you do? How did you raise 12 grand?
I did. I don't know. I just,
Hustled.
Yeah, it was just a must. And so, I'm not sitting at the end of the week and I made $12,000 and I'm like, oh, fuck.
That's what I like about you.
I'd rather just keep it in the bank. But
you just seem to just make it happen. If there's something to be done, and you just seem to find a way to make it happen, which is impressive.
Yeah, there must be lots of times when it doesn't work, but constantly, to put myself under pressure. I think I perform best that way.
Under pressure. Yeah. So what happens when things don't go to plan? Obviously, you just take them learnings and just move on.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's being successful in business is a lot to do with your relationship with failure. Like people think failure is like, oh, I failed at that. Like that was a mistake. Like someone said to me yesterday, like they did an article and did really well. So they reworded it and posted it again as an article, and they said, I think that was a mistake because no one, liked it and stuff. I think I should have done this instead.
Yeah.
And I said, whoa, it's not a mistake. You just learnt what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now you know exactly what works. That's positive. That's a really good step.
It's a good way to look at it, but a lot of people make a mistake and then stop, and it's just.
Yeah.
If they can just use that mistake to fuel the fire and move forward.
Faster. Yeah, fail faster. That's the way I look at it, is like make the mistakes real quick, then you'll make the right decision quicker.
Yeah. What are the mentors have you learned from then?
Yeah, so Dr. John DeMartini, I just got back from spending a weekend with him. Like it overwhelmed me what I learned from him in terms of like the eternity of the universe and what is real and what is temporary and all this sort of stuff. Is absolutely phenomenal, and it teaches you how to resolve resentment and like the things that people carry around their whole life would dictate all of their actions, which he literally is going around the world like curing people of. He's fantastic. I've done Kerwin Ray's stuff. Who's been really so like the ones that made the biggest impact have had to be. Grant Cardone's great for sales. I've got to say, like he's been phenomenal.
What's he like in real life? You've met him, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's interesting because he is like a big shot and stuff, but he is like so attentive to everyone in the room. And I've seen him with his kids. He's an exceptional father.
Yeah.
He's a really good husband to his wife. That was what blew me away. It was when I went to interview him, and they're staying at a house in Sydney. I guess it's an Airbnb. Like just watching their family interact, I'm like, wow, these guys are really like happy and they're really caring. And I think that that's probably what enables him or gives him the strength to be such a strong character on social media, because his glass is already full. He's not looking for reassurance for everyone else, Yeah.
How did you get that interview with Grant? Because I've heard the story. I think it's a kill story, isn't it?
Look, I found out that he was coming to Australia and he was doing a few podcast interviews. I know the CEO of Success Resources. I've emailed him a few times about this. I wasn't getting any responses. I was tagging him in all my posts, Grant Cardone in all my posts. And I ended up just like, I was thinking, what else can I do? What else can I do? I'm trying every platform because it's a must for me. Like, it's a must. Grant Cardone was on my list. Like, I have to interview him.
Yeah, you're like a dog with a bone, aren't you?
So, like, people wouldn't invest the time, otherwise, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to go focus on something else. There's a lead to follow up. And so, do more research. Elena Cardone, she just started a YouTube channel. His wife.
Yeah.
It's got like 350,000 subscribers, which is a lot, but it's not enough for her not to be. It's enough for her. Sorry, it's not enough for her to be also doing as many interviews as Grant Cardone while she's in Australia with him, right? So I'm thinking, she'll have all this free time while he's here, and so I messaged her on Instagram because most celebrities have Instagram in their pocket. They don't have LinkedIn in their pocket, right? They delegate it. So her assistant writes back to me and says, Elena will do the interview, Sydney this time. And I was like, I'm not in Sydney that time. However, I will go to Sydney on the basis that Grant will do an interview with me as well. And so you just imagine them sitting there at home, right? Elena's like, Grant, honey. Of course you're going to do it.
And then you had to fly to Sydney to do the interview?
Well, yeah. I mean, the flight that I had, we'll get to the airport, it was cancelled. They had this long customer service queue, and they're like, your next flight's not until 7 p.m. I'm like, I have to interview Grant Cardone, and they're like, we can get you to Adelaide. I'm like, what the hell would I want to go to Adelaide for? And they said, well, look, there's a flight leaving Adelaide 5 minutes after you get there. We can't connect you because it's an illegal connection because it's too short a time. But if you run to the gate, if you get there in time, you can get to Sydney. And when it's a must, and they're telling you that's the only chance you've got, I'm like, okay, book the flight to Adelaide. Let's go. And I got there and everything. And to be honest, it's not one of my best interviews. Like the camera that was on me wasn't on. The videographer, I had to get on AirTasker on the way there, right?
Right.
My microphone was not on, right? So in an interview, like if you're volume, like if you're somebody's speaking louder than you and they got more, like you seem like you're, how do you say, like on a different footing than the person you're interviewing. And Grant Cardone is a very powerful character, so you've got to be a bit more animated when you're with him.
Yeah.
And so, like, we had to do a lot of audio editing to kind of level that out. So it's not my best interviewing, but I did it. And now, when I ask Tony Robbins or ask the next person, and they're like, "Oh, well, who have you interviewed?" And I'm like, "Well, Grant Cardone." It's a really important milestone.
Yeah.
So, afterwards, like I had no flight back afterwards or anything. Like it was all last minute. We had to book it all the day before. And the videographer says to me, he goes, "You all right, man? Do you need to live somewhere?" I was like, "Can you drop me off at the pub?"
Awesome. You're so persistent. I love it. It's brilliant. So I'm guessing Tony Robbins is on your list to interview as well next time he's here.
Yeah, it's interesting. He is. Last time he was in town for Date with Destiny, he wasn't very well. Like the last couple of days, he had some problems with mercury poisoning and was in hospital. And like he's done so much more in my life that I will only do it like if it's convenient for him, because I really don't want to. It's not about me. Like I respect him so much that if I saw him in a restaurant and he's with his family, I wouldn't even say hello, because I just think that I want him to enjoy his free time. So I'd love to interview him, and I'm sure I will one day. I haven't mentioned this, but I actually spent the last 6 years volunteering at his events. So when I was at David Destiny last year, I wasn't there in the crowd. Like I've done that event twice. I'm there volunteering as a microphone runner. I would run the microphones for him, because I love being in the environment and helping other people.
Just proximity is power as well.
Exactly.
Definitely, you probably never see that Date with Destiny enough, can you?
Yeah, and just you watch people when they arrive, like 5,000 people, like sort of cortisol running through their heads. Oh my God, my flight was delayed, blah, blah, blah. And then they're leaving and they're like dancing and they're on fire. It's awesome.
Pumped. So what's a day in the life look like for you? Have you got some kind of routine?
No, I don't. It's an area that I haven't mastered yet. Like I kind of like will either be working like around the clock, in which case like it's not a good balance. Like I've balanced my life, but I haven't got it to a level where it's like on a daily basis, like every day is balanced.
Yeah.
And I want to, but so like for example, I sort of got to a level where I was almost burned out in Melbourne 10 days ago, and so then I planned to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Went to Bondi with my girlfriend. We like went sailing. Like we had the best time, and it's exactly what I needed. But like you sort of respond to the way your body's telling you. Like your body's like, if you're getting sick, your body's telling you need some rest. Like,
yeah.
And so I always do exercise in the morning before I start work. Like I get out of the house. It's really important. And then I get started. And in the evenings, my brain is like in its element. So again, my girlfriend hates this, but my best planning and my best ideas always come at night time.
Oh, so you're one of the night people.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a morning person. And my best hours are between like 5 and 9 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't get along with you.
So what sort of hobbies do you have then? What keeps you entertained when you do have downtime?
Oh, right. Well, look, I love being outdoors. I love the ocean. I love being around nature. I'm passionate about spending time with all members of my family. Like my grandparents, love hanging out with them.
Yeah.
Because they don't give a shit about what I do at work, and it's really quite grounding just to bring you back to earth and realize that, what's happening on LinkedIn is not.
They don't care. It's just Nathanial coming for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My sister's just had a baby, which is awesome. And then like I love skiing. I love like being on the ocean. I love hip hop music. Yeah, I mean, I really try to get as much out of life. I mean, even the personal development stuff, like it's
a hobby.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, it does become addictive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your 3 favourite books?
3 favourite books?
Top books.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good question. My 3 favourite books would have to be Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. The One Thing by
Yes.
Brian Keller, is it?
I do. Yeah, I read it just recently as well. I can't remember who wrote it.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the author. I've recommended that one a few times. Do you know what? What's that one by Mark Manson? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Was it good?
Oh, yeah.
The amount of times I've seen it, it's sat in the number one spot for so long, and for some reason I just always flick past it and choose something else. I don't know why. So
you really don't give a fuck.
I will read it. Yeah.
Like, not everyone needs to read it. That's the thing, right? But a lot of us do spend time worrying about stuff that, like, to be honest, either we can't control or we don't really care about. It's like not one of our values. It's something we've adopted from somebody else. Somebody else has told us it's important.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a waste of energy.
So it's like somebody else's worries that are going through your mind.
Well, like I grow up, like my mum's values is like security and like, you know, financial stability and all this sort of stuff. And so I kept like going, oh, I need to save money, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. Until one day I realized, no, that's what she cares about. I care about adventure and risk and doing this, like, and so when you realize that, you become empowered, and like you don't want to focus on stuff that you're not naturally interested in.
Yeah.
Because if I focus on that, I actually won't make any money. Whereas if I focus on the risk, adventure, the sales, and like driving things forward, I'll make lots of money.
Keeps the fire burning.
Yeah.
Keeps the fire burning. Nice, mate. So, last but not least, where is your best place to eat in Perth? Where can we find you chomping down at something nice?
Well, I live in the city, so like I'm always down at I was at Bangkok Brothers last night. I like the Meat and Wine Co. But my favourite places are definitely like by the ocean. So like Odyssey down at City Beach is awesome. There's a few places down at City Beach. We were so lucky in Perth. The restaurants have opened in the last 10 years are phenomenal.
Yeah.
We've got some of the most beautiful beaches ever. I was at the Key Hotel, was a good one recently. The top floor there, they've got awesome view of the river in South Perth.
Yep.
We're very lucky.
Yeah, we are. Certainly are, mate. It's so picturesque and the weather's just insane, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Well, Nathan, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. That was so much fun.
No problem, mate. And tune in next week for our next guest. And remember that every master was once a disaster and every winner was once a beginner.